Tonight at 10, changes to the rules on foreign travel leave thousands of British tourists scrambling to get home from Mexico by Sunday morning. Holidays are being cut short as the country is placed on the travel red list.
We can't afford another £3,000, and also with my work I can't afford to take any extra time off, and I can't work in the quarantine hotel, so we had to get back before Sunday.
But travellers who've been double jabbed will no longer have to quarantine on their return from France. Also tonight, 7 men jailed for the murder of Aya Hachem, a student mistakenly shot dead in a business vendetta. The mother of a British soldier killed in Afghanistan says foreign troops shouldn't return, despite the Taliban now threatening to take control.
I don't think we should go back or have any involvement whatsoever. Just leave them. Just leave them to it.
£100 million for midfielder Jack Grealish. Manchester City smash English football's transfer fee record.
He was tactically masterful, and it has led to a gold medal for Great Britain.
And Matt Walls' victory in the Omnium helps take Team GB's medal tally above 50.
And coming up in the sport on the BBC News Channel, the end of an era. Barcelona say Lionel Messi will not be staying at the club because of financial and structural obstacles.
Good evening. The government has been defending new changes to the rules governing foreign travel, with thousands of British tourists trying to get home from Mexico by Sunday morning. The country has now been placed on the red travel list, which means those returning to the UK will have to quarantine in a designated hotel at their own expense. Spain remains on the amber list, but the government is now urging travellers to take a PCR test rather than the quicker lateral flow test before flying home. From 4 a.m. on Sunday, those arriving from France won't have to self-isolate if they've been fully vaccinated. And India moves from the red list to amber, but people will still have to test for coronavirus. Now, the changes affect international travellers returning to all 4 home nations. Here's our transport correspondent, Caroline Davies.
The only Cancun sunrise Robin and his wife Viv will see this trip. Their pre-holiday excitement soured quickly when they landed in Mexico last night and heard that it joins the red list on Sunday morning.
My wife's been really upset the last few hours, and the holiday itself was about £6,000, so we were really treating ourselves for just a week's holiday. Another couple of thousand for the additional flights that we've got, plus we're still paying for all the tests when we get back as well. So yeah, it's been a fair bit of money for effectively a day out.
He's among 5,000 to 6,000 British tourists currently in Mexico. More flights have been added to get them home.
So there's 11 of us. It's a family holiday. Our parents have taken us away. We have had a quite bad year, and we just wanted to spend some quality family time together, which has now been destroyed in one fell swoop by a government that's nothing less than shambolic.
The Prime Minister has asked people to be patient as travel changes. The plans have also been criticised for new rules for Spain, now advising but not requiring travellers to have PCR tests rather than the cheaper lateral flow test.
Now, we set a very high specification, so-called the sensitivity and specificity for that test, which in the case of Spain means that virtually everyone is already taking a PCR test. That's helpful.
But one of the biggest holiday operators, TUI, has said that 90% of its holidaymakers use lateral flow tests. Some Conservative politicians have said PCR tests need to be dropped altogether.
PCR tests can be 2 to 3 times the cost of lateral flow testing. It's pricing out holidays for those that don't have the means to pay for those tests. I wouldn't mind if the tests were going to be used for sequencing so we can find all variants of concern. But if only 5% of PCR tests are being sequenced, then surely it's a complete waste of money.
Yesterday's news could be a late push for tourists to France. Eurotunnel and Eurostar have reported an increase in bookings. This kayak club north of Toulouse say they have missed UK holidaymakers, but don't know how many will be back soon.
We are relieved restrictions have been lifted, but we're still dubious. Everyone anticipates and plans their holidays in May and June. And while I hope the British come back, I'm not sure they will. With the rules in place, I'm not convinced it will be that easy for them to travel here.
India and the UAE will go from red to amber, while 7 new countries in Europe go green. But there's still some criticism about neighbouring countries being treated differently.
To have India on the amber list and its neighbouring country, Pakistan, on the red list makes no sense. What we have to do is, if any country anywhere in the world is showing evidence of a variant of concern, we want to put them on a red list plus.
Back in Mexico, Robin is determined to enjoy his few hours of holiday.
I'll try and go for a little wander along the beach. We need to get as much squeezed into this 24 hours.
Escaping abroad might be easier, but uncertainty still hangs over holidays. Caroline Davis, BBC News.
Well, the latest coronavirus figures show cases have gone up. The latest figures show there were 30,215 new infections in the latest 24-hour period, with an average of 26,201 new cases per day in the last 7 days. So the longer-term trend is down. 86 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours. That's an average of 82 a day in the past week. The number of people in hospital with COVID is now below 5,700. More than 88% of adults in the UK have had their first jab, and over 73% are now fully vaccinated. And the new head of the NHS in England, Amanda Pritchard, has told the BBC she's cautiously optimistic about the outlook for hospitals in the coming weeks as more people get vaccinated against COVID. She's urging everyone to remain cautious, but the number of people being pinged by the COVID app in England and Wales has fallen significantly. With more, here's our health editor, Hugh Pym.
And how long have you been volunteering?
First week in the job, and the new head of NHS England made a point of visiting a vaccination centre.
There's more and more young people coming through.
But it seems still not enough young people, with news that 1 in 5 COVID hospital admissions last month were for patients under 35. Older people who were more vulnerable are better protected thanks to the vaccines. And Amanda Pritchard says there's a lesson for 18 to 34-year-olds.
So young people are not immune, and the best way they can protect themselves absolutely is to get that vaccine if they haven't already. Hello.
Fita is an international student. He had to delay his jab because of travel, then caught COVID and developed a blood clot on his lungs. He's in hospital in Leeds, where managers want to highlight the risks for those who haven't been vaccinated.
I'm 25, and then suddenly, just in, I don't know, a couple of hours, I'm in a hospital in pain. I never imagined that, it will be that quick, it will be that pain.
With the trend for cases falling, the number pinged by the COVID app, having risen steeply, has started coming down. In the last week of July in England and Wales, there were fewer than 400,000 alerts sent out telling people to self-isolate, compared with nearly 700,000 the previous week. As for daily COVID hospital admissions in England, having gone up a lot, they've continued to level off. NHS chiefs now think the pressure on hospitals won't be as bad as predicted.
I think it's very difficult to predict the future, but I think what we certainly can say is that the number of patients being admitted to hospital with COVID has flattened out over the course of the past few days. So I think we would agree that there is some grounds for cautious optimism.
But there's still a growing backlog of non-urgent operations to be carried out, with more than 5 million on the waiting list in England. What do you say to a patient who's waited more than a year for a hip replacement, a knee replacement, or another important operation?
That is absolutely our focus now. Yes, today's challenges, yes, the COVID vaccination programme, the booster programme, but yes, really now coming together across the NHS in the same way we have done over the last 18 months to tackle those backlogs.
So there are many big challenges for the new boss of NHS England, and now there's a new one, rolling out the vaccination programme to 16 and 17-year-olds, which ministers want to see getting underway within weeks. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
The First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, is to confirm the country will move to alert level 0 on Saturday in the biggest easing of restrictions since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. Well, our Wales correspondent Howell Griffith joins us now. Howell, so what does alert level 0 actually mean?
Well, Clive, it's a hugely significant step, if not the terminus date of this very long 17-month journey we've all been on in Wales. Most significantly, maybe, the rules on social distancing and limits on people meeting indoors will end on Saturday, so friends and family can meet in each other's homes unrestricted. Nightclubs can open at last. People can drink at the bar once again. Changes made in England 3 weeks ago, which the Welsh Government held back from until now. However, there will be changes coming in Wales ahead of other parts of the UK. So the rules on self-isolation will change on Saturday. It means children under 18s and adults who've had a double dose of the vaccine will no longer need to self-isolate if they've been in contact with someone who's tested positive. So the end of the pingdemic, but tomorrow the Welsh Government will warn it's not the end of the pandemic. And that's why the rules on face masks will largely stay in place. They'll still be needed in Wales in shops, on public transport, in healthcare settings, not, however, in pubs, bars and restaurants. The First Minister, Mark Drakeford, will stress the need for caution, say this isn't free for all, and he'll actually ask people to keep on meeting outdoors, to keep their distance, to keep on working from home. Measures which were likely to remain in place potentially for months, all suggesting we're not at the end of this journey yet.
OK, Howell, thank you. Howell Griffith there in Cardiff. 7 men have been jailed for the murder of Aya Hachem, a student who was shot dead in a drive-by shooting. Blackburn tyre firm boss Feroz Suleiman had arranged the killing of a rival tyre company executive. But the gunman he hired shot the 19-year-old law student instead. Our North of England correspondent Judith Moritz has the story.
Aya Hachem fled violence in Lebanon for a better life here, but she was murdered on the very streets where she should have been safe. Aya was preparing to break the Ramadan fast with her family, going to the shops to buy food. But she walked into the path of a feud between rival tyre businesses in Blackburn. Shots were fired from a passing car. One hit a window, blowing out the glass. Moments later, the second hit Aya. The gunman had missed his intended victim, who phoned 999.
And they start shooting on me. She was just walking around. She was walking. She was going to go somewhere, I think.
So you think that they were shooting at you initially and then caught her instead? Not responsive? Is she breathing?
No, she's not responsive. She's got a very weak pulse.
Today, the 7 men guilty of Aya's murder were each jailed for life to serve between 27 and 34 years.
Stay where you are, yeah? Keep your hands out, all right? I've got a taser, OK?
The gunman, Zamir Raja, had been arrested at Euston Station after going on the run. Sentencing, Mr Justice Turner said that none of the men had shown any remorse and they tried to lie, plot and scheme their way out of trouble to save their own skins.
No matter what the sentence they get, Aya's gone. Nothing is going to bring her back. But I'm glad that a lot of people are going to be safe from these thugs. No one else is going to be hurt. No other person is going to be killed because of them. And I hope these people rot in prison.
Aya was studying law. Her father told her she could be Prime Minister one day. Today, her family said the light in their lives had gone out and all their hopes and dreams had gone. Judith Moritz, BBC News.
Boris Johnson has been criticised after making controversial comments about Britain's mining industry while on a visit to an offshore wind farm in Scotland. He said the former Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, had given the UK a big early start in the fight against climate change when she shut down coal mines in the 1980s.
You're watching ITV News Meridian here in the southeast.
Tonight's headlines this Thursday evening.
Correspondent Ben Wright is at Westminster. Ben, what exactly did Boris Johnson say?
Well, Clive, this was Boris Johnson's first visit to Scotland since January. A chance for him to trumpet the Union and his own policies on climate change. Instead, it's his comments about Margaret Thatcher that were leapt on by his political opponents and I think have left some Scottish Conservatives holding their heads in their hands. The Prime Minister was talking to reporters and marvelling at the move away from fossil fuels over recent decades. And he said Thanks to Margaret Thatcher, who closed so many coal mines across the country, we had a big early start, and we're now moving rapidly away from coal altogether. Now, it seems these comments were made fairly tongue-in-cheek, but the political condemnation was swift. The Scottish First Minister and leader of the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon, said that the closure of the mines devastated lives and communities, and they had nothing to do with climate change at the time. She called the remarks crass. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, said they were shameful. Now, in the last couple of years, the Tories have done well at making progress in former coal mining seats in England. But as the party tries to broaden its appeal across the UK, including in Scotland, I'm not sure this remark will have helped.
OK, Ben, thank you. Ben, right there.
Enjoy the evening. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
The Taliban are continuing their rapid advance in Afghanistan, with most US-led foreign troops due to leave by next month. Insurgents now control large parts of the city of Lashkar in Helmand province, with reports of bodies lying in the streets after intense fighting with government troops. Helmand was under the control of British forces after a US-led coalition invasion in 2001, following the September 11th terror attacks. Well, in March 2012, Corporal Jake Hartley was one of 6 British servicemen killed in Helmand when a bomb detonated beneath their armoured vehicle. At the time, it was the biggest single loss of life suffered by the British military in the campaign. Well, in the last week, Jake's mother, Natalie, has been watching events unfold in Afghanistan, and she's been speaking to our special correspondent, Ed Thomas.
Bye-bye. I like my candles. I'd touch that picture. I'd say good morning, good night. I'll talk to him. It's like he's here.
Holding on. Memories of Corporal Jake Hartley.
I have Jake's old iPhone and wallet with money and items and cinema tickets. I've got his best clothes, and I polish his buckle. And I still have his shoes in the shoe rack. They're just little comforts. Might seem crazy to some people, but yeah.
It's nearly 10 years since Jake was killed in Afghanistan.
Losing Jake has caused so much pain. So much pain.
He was 20 years old.
I've not wanted to be here. I have attempted, I have. It's like I've just wanted to go to him. And I just want the pain and everything to just go away.
After 2 decades of conflict, this is Lashkar now, with the Taliban taking Afghanistan to the brink of civil war.
I don't think we should go back or have any involvement whatsoever.
Unions are
We've done what we can, and it's cost a lot of lives, too many. It makes me angry. Yeah, it makes me angry. He gave his life for Queen and country, and for us to be safe.
Time for all the latest.
We're all seeing the Taliban pushing across the country, across Helmand, where Jake was. And how difficult is it to see those images?
It's just a waste. It's just, it does feel like a waste. But I think that there's no comeback. There's nothing we can do.
Corporal Jake Hartley was one of 457 British military deaths in Afghanistan.
Jake paid the ultimate sacrifice, but so do the families. You know, we have definitely been forgotten about. Jake's last letter, the first line, states, "Hello, family. Please don't cry, Mum. I'm not here now. I'm in a better place."
If you could say one more thing to him.
I love you so much. And I'd have to finish with my little nut brown hair.
Natalie Bouzid there, speaking to Ed Thomas. The Bank of England is keeping interest rates at the record low level of 0.1% despite fears over rising prices. Inflation is forecast to hit 4% by the end of the year, double the bank's target and the fastest rise in the cost of living for more than a decade. But the governor, Andrew Bailey, says interest rates won't be raised above 0.5% for at least 3 years, insisting rising inflation is temporary as the country emerges from the pandemic. Now, there have been some major developments tonight in the world of football. Barcelona have announced that the Argentinian star Lionel Messi will have to leave the club. It's believed the terms of a new contract would break financial rules. And here, Manchester City have smashed the transfer fee record for an English club, signing the midfielder Jack Grealish from Aston Villa for £100 million. That surpasses the £89 million paid by Manchester United for Paul Pogba in 2016. Well, our sports correspondent Nesta McGregor is at Manchester City's Etihad Stadium for us this evening. Hi there, Nesta.
Hi, Clive. Well, there is that well-known phrase that you can't put a price on quality. Clearly, when it comes to football, that's not the case. Like you say, Manchester City tonight breaking the British transfer record. £100 million for Jack Grealish. This, the Etihad Stadium, will be his new home. He'd been at Aston Villa. He's 25. He'd been there since he was 6 for 19 years. Says he still loves the club, but he hopes fans can understand he's left to pursue a new challenge. Posted by Manchester City, a video showing off their new number 10. Jack Grealish, the most expensive British footballer ever. The 25-year-old is well known for wearing his socks low, but his stock is high. He signed a 6-year deal for a transfer fee estimated to be £100 million.
Grealish. Oh, lovely little ding. Ball is put into the back of the net.
A standout player for England at Euro 2020. He'd also led Aston Villa to a credible 11th place finish in the Premier League last season. So it's been no surprise one of the so-called bigger clubs came knocking.
I think they're getting one of the most exciting players in the Premier League at this moment in time. He's somebody where you can see he's got huge potential, but he's also got a great level of talent right now. You know, he's been the main guy for Aston Villa for the past couple of seasons at least. And he's somebody, as I say, who you can picture in that Man City side that could potentially take them to a whole new level.
A list of the most expensive signings by British clubs might be dominated by the red half of Manchester, but this deal means City are now number one. Clear goals for this season, defending their Premier League title and getting their hands on that elusive Champions League trophy. Like his trademark haircut, on the pitch, Grealish is sharp, stylish and resilient, although he's also made headlines away from football. Last December, he received a driving ban for motoring offences. Aston Villa made it clear they tried to keep him at the club, but the money from this transfer has already been spent buying players to try and replace him. Birmingham-born Grealish joined Aston Villa as a 6-year-old, building a special relationship with fans.
Not only is he a Villa fan, but also his whole family are Villa fans. And I can't see him, jumping for joy to be leaving Villa. Definitely not.
Jack Grealish becomes part of a team already rich with international talent. And who knows, he could soon be joined by a familiar face he spent some of the summer with. Nesta McGregor, BBC News.
Team GB's medal tally at the Tokyo Olympics has now passed 50. With 16 golds, including Matt Walls today winning in the velodrome in the men's Omnium race. There was bronze for Holly Bradshaw in the women's pole vault, and Liam Heath also took bronze in a photo finish in the 200 metres kayak single. Our sports editor Dan Rowan has the very latest.
Britain's dominated in the velodrome at the last 2 games, but here in Tokyo they had to wait until day 4 on the track for a first gold. Oldham's Matt Walls, master of the Omnium. One of the sport's most brutal spectacles, it features 4 races, culminating in a 100-lap epic, the 23-year-old dominating from start to finish to clinch the title.
Fortune favours the bold, and there were none bolder than Walls in this one.
Not yet a household name, Walls is now British cycling's latest star after a win he dedicated to his family.
I wouldn't be here without them, especially my parents. When I was youth growing up, travelling around the country racing, yeah, no chance I'd be here without them, so big thank you to them.
Elsewhere, however, Britain's cyclists have continued to struggle here. Jason Kenny's 9-year reign as Olympic sprint champion over, as he was beaten in the quarter-finals. And in the women's Keirin, there was an abrupt end to Katie Marchant's chances, as her hopes of victory came crashing down. But at the National Stadium, Holly Bradshaw was trying to secure her first medal in this, her third Olympics. This clearance securing a place on the podium.
So far, these have been a frustrating games for Britain's athletics team, but Holly Bradshaw is now guaranteed a medal. The question is, what colour will it be?
Off the pole vault final, Bradshaw, oh!
Having failed to match her British record of 4 metres 90, bronze it was. But the 29-year-old still able to celebrate Britain's first ever Olympic pole vault medal.
I don't know what emotion this is that I'm feeling. It's relief, pure enjoyment, and just excited and just proud of myself for sticking with it.
On the track, someone else sticking with it was Dina Asher-Smith. After pulling out of the 200 metres due to injury, she returned for the relay heats and helped the British team into the final with a new national record. After Asher-Smith's tears at the weekend, it was all smiles. In the boxing, Britain's Galal Yafai now has gold within his reach after a stunning victory in his flyweight semi-final. Delight for the 28-year-old, whose 2 elder brothers are also boxers.
We talk about it at home, me and my brothers, and now I'm fighting in front of everyone, in front of them, my mum, my family, my friends, the whole team, the whole world watching me now in the Olympic final, and I just got to deliver the goods and take that gold medal back home.
Meanwhile, in the kayak final, Britain's Liam Heath was paddling to preserve his Olympic title. After a sluggish start, he came roaring back, and third from the top, it was agonisingly close.
It's Topka who takes the gold for Hungary.
But behind him, Heath had taken bronze in the tightest of photo finishes.
Great Britain!
This his 4th Olympic medal, confirming his status as Britain's most successful canoeist. Dan Rowan, BBC News, Tokyo.
That's it. Now on BBC One, time for the news where you are. Have a very good night.